Hey guys, thanks for being here. My name is Tara Long if you're new. It's been a while since I've been on here. It's summer and I've just been busy. I've actually been teaching my trust class. So I've been teaching folks how to create their own private irrevocable trusts. If you're interested in that, just email me. All the information is below. And you can ask me questions about that. I will have that available evergreen so that you can watch it, at your own pace when we're finished with the trust class, which will be in a couple of months. But I always can work one-on-one with people to help them create their own trusts. So today, I want to talk about legal marriage and what it means because this is something that, I mean, just being in the sovereignty space for so long, it's one of those things that it's a contract, right? You are entering into a contract with the state in which you are getting permission to get married, right? So a marriage license is legal permission to get married. So if we think about this, just on a very, if we unpack it to like its basic foundational level, we could go into what is marriage and what does it mean, just, on a spiritual level. It's just two people who love each other, who are, coming together and saying we are committed to one another. We're devoted, we're committed. But legal marriage is in England, there's records of it since like the 14th century. In the United States of America, as early as the 17th century, but it really didn't become adopted statewide until the 1800s. So it's not that old, right? That, I mean, men and women and, you know, two men and women in whatever configuration that may be have been getting married, for a very long time. And it's pretty recent that, of course, the state, is like, hey, wait a minute, we're gonna make you get permission for that. And so we can charge you so that you're contracting with us. That binds you to certain things. And so this is just an invitation to ask yourself. So if you're already married, you can rescission your marriage certificate. So you get a marriage license before you have the ceremony, right? So the license is a permission to get married. Then you have the ceremony with an official, right? An officiant and witnesses who marries you, and then you're married. And then you have the marriage certificate after that, which says, okay, this is a valid marriage. It's registered with the state, with the government. It's legal. It's valid. It's valid is what, they say. So, and all that gives you certain benefits, right? I'm using air quotes if you're listening. They're like, oh yeah, just getting legally married gives you all kinds of benefits, as spouses, right? Um, it gives you, like, say someone is injured or in hospital, right? It can give you, oh, we're married and, this is my husband or my wife. Do they check your marriage certificate in that instance? Probably not. But nonetheless, it's you can write your own medical directive. Say you were to go into a situation like that, where you were in the hospital and you had a husband, a wife, a spouse, a partner, whatever that you wanted to be included in that. Um, you can write your medical directive, have it signed by two witnesses or a notary, and that is a legal binding document. So we don't need to have this marriage certificate in order to have certain benefits, right? Of course, if you are giving your money away to the IRS in the form of so-called taxes, um, then there's a benefit. Oh, you get to pay a little bit less if you have a legal marriage. Ooh, imagine that. There's other things too that they say. Um, but really, what you're doing is you're marrying the state. The state is a third party in your union, right? A union between, let's just for this sake, say between a man and a woman. It can be also between a man and a man or a woman and a woman, between two individuals. That is a union. That is a sacred union. right? And when you're getting it legally, when you're entering the legal world with that, you are actually, they're basically coming into your house, coming into your relationship. They're putting their hand in, like so-called government likes to do, right? And say that it's authority, and you need this authority in order, you don't, otherwise you're not going to know how to conduct yourself, right? So when you get married legally, also any children who are born from that union with um, the state automatically has ownership over those children. So this is like when you get a birth certificate for your child, and that can be another video another time, but just to nutshell it, um, when we get birth certificates, we are then registered, right? Your birth certificate gets registered with the state. You become, they then own, of course, it's your legal entity that they own, but they have rights there. That's why social services can come in and take your child away, and all these things. So, and yes, you can forego. I would forego a hospital birth. I mean, this is my, opinion. I would absolutely forego a hospital birth. I would forego Western medicine 100% unless it was an emergency and you were bleeding from the head or stitches, or you had an accident, you needed to be put back together. Perfect. Other than that, no. Having a baby in a hospital, again, unless there's an actual emergency where you have to be there, I would not, I because there's so many different things that happen in a birth and hospital that they want to do. They're taking blood, they're of course shooting your child with poison of all kinds when they're 12 hours old. Birth certificates, right? Which is like, oh, no, they're taking the placenta and they're taking the umbilical cord. They're selling that for thousands and thousands of dollars. It's just all kinds of stuff that goes on, right? So if at all that resonates for you, home birth, 100%. Um, but your child does not need a birth certificate to exist and live in this world. It doesn't. Your child does not need that, right? I know people who have children who do not have birth certificates, where their children get jobs and go to college and do whatever else, the rest of the world is doing. It's just fear. It's just fear. And if your child never gets a birth certificate, they never get a social security number, there's no implication for taxes. None. So you don't have to, those of us who have birth certificates and social security numbers, and exit from that system, we still may have to deal with a tax agency at some point, and there's ways that, now I know we can use equity jurisprudence, and it's beautiful, and that's a beautiful remedy. But if you don't have a birth certificate and no social security number, you don't even have to go there. You're free. You're a free living being on the land. I mean, how beautiful is that? So there's a lot of people doing that now. A lot, like a lot. So it's not some crazy wackadoodle thing. I mean, imagine a world where we're like, the crazy wackadoodle thing is to not be, is to not be contracting with the state for births and marriages and just all the things, right? We're culturally, we are taught and indoctrinated that, and to obey authority and to get permission to do everything in our lives that is honorable, that you're a respectable person, paying your taxes is very respectful, it's a very honorable thing to do, when actually it's a slave thing to do. We're just shifting our mindset, right? And there's ways to do this that are honorable. There's ways to exit from all of those contracts that are very honorable and true and natural. So anyway, with the marriage license and marriage certificate, you don't need it. You can get it if you want, but you are entering into that contract, and then your whatever children come out of that marriage are also entered automatically into this contract with the state. So why not have a ceremony? You can have a ceremony to get married to someone. You can even create some sort of agreement between you and your beloved, and bring it to, if you really want something official, you can record it at the county recorder's office. Like there's different things that can be done. It can be notarized and recorded, and then it's like, okay, this happened, this exists. You don't have to do that. You can just say, this is my husband, this is my wife. Like that. I Anyway, we're so used to getting permission for everything, and we forget we don't need it. You don't need it. You're a natural, beautiful, amazing, vibrant miracle of a being that is on in this realm, that is on the land, on the earth, and you don't need any of that. Let me just make sure yeah. So basically, um, legal marriage is just the government having more oversight into your life and being able to control you in a different way. Being able to control you. That's what it's about, right? Is being able to control you and make you forget, or maybe you have never had this remembrance in your life yet, but that you are of infinite worth and value, and you don't need permissions and contracts in order to create that worth and that value and that honorability and that, being a good person. That's just what keeps everybody tampered down from not living their dreams, from thinking they can't do that. That's not possible. Well, that's on purpose, but you have the ability and the right to say, that's a bunch of BS. I'm not going to go with that anymore. And to just, yeah, take the reins. So if this resonates, um, great. If not, that's okay too. If you have entered into a marriage contract with the state, you can rescission that contract through equity. And, I can help you with that if that's something that you want to do. Um, I mean, it's a little tricky once you've already entered into that, say you've been married for 10 years or 20 years or whatever, you're already in the system as that. So you can rescission it. And if it were ever to come, under any sort of scrutiny or whatever, you have that rescission document, which is an absolutely legal, official, valid document commercially. If in the case of, bearing children and then not wanting them to be in the system and things like that. So it's not at this point, if you've already done it and you have your contract, rescissioning it is more of a spiritual thing. It's more of a energetic thing, but you can do it, and I think it's a beautiful thing to do, if you want to. So just let me know. Also, if you are interested in trusts, um, you can, yeah, you can set up a 15-minute consultation with me, and I can let you know what the best way to go forward is. I work again one-on-one with people, and I also have this very, very detailed class that I'm teaching right now regarding trust that will give you everything that you need to know to create a really private trust for yourself, your family, um, you know, that you are protected and safe and all of that. So I hope you're well. It's good to be back, and I'll see you again whenever the mood strikes. Okay.